Great. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Especially a special thank you to McGough for joining us and providing their lane of expertise as it relates to data centers. This is a big topic in Montana. It's a big topic nationally, and our intention here all along has been trying to drive this rhetoric down a little bit, have conversations that are more based around facts than something that someone may have picked up off of a Facebook or a TikTok sort of video. And so we've been breaking up this discussion around data centers into bite-sized morsels, if you will. We've had a number of topics to date. We've got a number of topics yet to come, including the superintendent from a Quincy, Washington school district that's going to come in and talk about the impacts that they have seen with data centers in that school district. And today we're going to focus on McGough. And McGough is one of the more well-regarded sort of construction companies, if you will, general contractors in the data center space, constructing data centers in a number of states around the country. And so today's focus is going to be on kind of what you can expect in a community when it comes to the construction, because that's arguably some of the biggest impact that you're going to see is during the actual construction of these. And so we are recording this session. Everyone is on mute. As soon as we finish the presentation part here, we'll stop the recording, which then will allow folks to ask questions without being concerned about that being recorded. We'll ask that you raise a hand, or you can also submit a question in the chat, and then we'll call on you during that Q&A session to ask the questions, or I'll read the questions from the chat there. So thanks again for joining us, and I'm going to turn this over to Nathan and John with McGough and walk us through a little bit of an introduction of themselves, the company, and some of the work that you're doing and how you're working with local governments and communities during the construction phase.
Thank you, Todd, for that introduction, and happy to be here with everybody and kick this thing off. A little bit more information about McGough, just to kind of set the stage. We're a company, been in business just over 70 years, general contractor. We do a wide range of different types of projects, large and small, and probably have a 30-year history of data centers, with the hyperscales being, the very large hyperscales we've been involved with for probably going on 3 or 4 years. We're certainly not the largest, don't ever plan to be, don't ever necessarily want to be, but we're in we have 14 offices across the country, and a good strong reputation. Just give you a little background about the company. Myself, I've been not at McGough all 70 years. I've been there 30. I've been in the industry 43 years. So just to kind of give you an idea of my background, I've worked in a number of states. So I've seen a lot of different types of projects and different regions and areas that I can speak to. Nate, you want to grab it?
Yeah, Nate Wood. Been with McGough Construction for my entire 28-year career. And as John said, have been building data centers for a couple decades, but as they have evolved into the current, hyperscale data center format, we're going to, kick off the conversation today using an example project that was completed last year, built near a smaller community, and just talk about the reality. We had a real experience building a large hyperscale data center right next to, like I said, a small community of about 1,100 people. So we'll talk about that. And with that, I think I can pull up some slides.
And why don't you start off with the first one? I think it's good, Nate, to talk and just say we're not here today necessarily to talk about the technical aspects of the data center or resources as far as natural resources, electricity and water, things like that. That is very dependent on the type of data center and really out of our realm of controlling. What we're here today to talk more specifically about is execution and how that execution in the field has could have positive effects, could have negative effects on the community. Obviously, want them all to be positive, and just kind of open the window to what we've learned over the years. And I think, as much as anything, the community leaders, the people we're talking to now, the community at large, it's probably a good opportunity for you to understand how to maybe set the example, set the expectations for contractors that might come into your neighborhoods, as well as understand kind of what our expectations are of our projects and our crews. So with that, why don't you jump to the next one here?
Everybody's seeing the slideshow here. I'm sharing correctly. Okay, great.
Well, and well, it's on the next one too. Yeah. So again, Nate, you alluded to this, but we're going to go through an example, and really the baseline is pretty simple. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to be respectable to the community. As we mentioned, we want to have net positive impacts. There are sometimes very large impacts to the surrounding areas, and we want those by and large to be all favorable. You could have up to minimum 300 or 400 workers on a job. Our site right now on one area is pushing 2,000, and that is that. In that situation, we really need to kind of control how things are happening. And we'll talk about workforce housing, then finish it off with some questions. Make sure you know our contacts if you've got any questions going forward. Nate, anything you want to add to the agenda?
Yeah, and I think it's just that there's a reality around. Yeah, there's going to be traffic and deliveries, and to build a building, there is a community impact. But we can talk specifically about ourselves and how we were able to navigate that in partnership with the community, but also generally the developers, owners, and general contractors that build these, they want it to be a positive experience. They want to work with you in the community, and we can look at, and we'll get into in this presentation, a number of things that you as a community member should expect from those owners and those general contractors, and the types of conversations that maybe you could drive. I think that's kind of the point today is just laying that out. What types of questions should we be asking when one of these comes into our community? What kind of expectations should we set? On the reality of, yes, there is going to be people, there are going to be deliveries. But how can we route that? How can the community? What capacity does the community have to take on those housing needs, or what should the contractor and owner come in and bring with them? So with that, I think we can jump right into kind of laying out the example project and get into some of that.
Hey, why don't you jump into this? This is the first phase of a 3-phase project, multi-year. It is the smallest of the 3 phases. I think we maxed out around, I don't know, right around 400 or 500 on this one, Nate. But why don't you talk a little bit about the genesis here and how we got started?
Just to give an idea of scale, right? This is the example that I mentioned earlier. This is located just about a mile outside of a small town of about 1,100 people, population 1,100. As John said, on this building, at the peak, we had about 400, 500 people on this job site every day. So commuting into site. So just to give you an idea of the scale of the building, almost 400,000 square feet. So that's larger than most of your Costco's or big box type stores as far as a footprint of the building goes. This was a 3-story building, so a little bit taller. Some of the other ones that we're working on right now are just single story with just a larger footprint. And this was a developer model. So there was a developer that was the landowner that hired us as the general contractor, and then they leased it to a tenant. So there were three kind of entities involved at various levels, interacting with the community leaders, planning this project, and working on building those relationships and making sure that this job was set up. We had the right logistics planning to be successful on this particular site. And we'll see a site map here in a little bit on we talk about some things that we did to interact with the community.
Yeah, why don't we kick it in here a little bit? Yeah, again, we recognize that we're guests of the city. The contractor needs to do that. We need to be a good neighbor. Our expectations are, and we drive this home with all of our crews on a weekly, if not daily basis. Come with a professionalism, care, and respect, basically in everything we do. And we're not just building. We're not just being there to earn money. We want to be part of the community, and we have been. I think it's important to remember here that we are a general contractor. We will always facilitate the execution of this. You will have on every job some sort of owner, either a developer or an end user owner, and that's where really these discussions and these expectations start. We are certainly a key part of the team and primarily responsible for the execution. But the thing to remember is you got the developer, you got the owner. It's got to start with them. This particular example that we are bringing up, we've actually the developer's actually gone into the town and made some investments, improved a park. We've improved routing roads to bypass much of the traffic out of the downtown. And so there are a certain amount of improvements that can be done, maybe are expected to be done to lessen the impact on the community. And certainly engaging very early with the right people and setting those expectations are key. Nate, you want to take this one?
Yeah, that to your point, there's meaningful economic impact, as John mentioned. Working with the community to improve roads, working with the county on the county roads that need to be improved to handle the volume of trucking that's going to happen, but then they're left in that improved state. So that's a net positive. Evaluating the local businesses, whether it's the local hotels, any multifamily or housing options. What does that capacity look like? How can we utilize that without overwhelming the town? That's important too. In this particular example, there were a couple of establishments with commercial kitchens that serve food. We were able to partner with those folks, help them invest in some food service offerings for the job site, just a mile out of town. So great opportunity for those business leaders to partner with us and find a business opportunity for a couple of years to have a food truck on the site. That helps us. That's great for us. The guys have another option for a hot lunch while they're at work, and it was great for that business to have some supplemental income throughout the project. So meaningful economic impact to the community, and then discussion around reality of there is going to be traffic, there will be trucks. It's a construction project. There will be people. So what's the best route for them to take into the job? We don't need to be driving right down Main Street. Let's create a route for that traffic to go around town on the county roads to come up into site. You can see from the wheels on our shuttle bus, you get a little dirt and mud on a construction project. So we've got to have street sweepers on the paved roads, and we're cleaning those roads and making sure on a regular basis throughout the day we're keeping down that mud and or dust. We've got water trucks on site to keep the blowing dust from blowing around into town. And the communication piece is big. And that's where, local leaders, relationships, our leaders on these project sites, they have a Rolodex that includes, the mayor, this town had a local city police chief, as well as the county sheriff, and all of those three folks were people that our on-site leader made a point early on to go meet with, have a conversation, making sure, hey, we want to hear, we're setting expectations. The developer owner set expectations for behavior. We're talking with the crews that are on site about maintaining the proper speed limit. When they're frequenting the establishments in town, we have expectations for professionalism, and if there is issues that elevate to local police, sheriff, whatnot, do your job and take care of business, but also let us know, because we want to help on the back end of that as well, and we do. So, and it's rare for the most part. And I think we get into it here a little bit. These are people. These are people working on these jobs. They want to they want to do good. They want to feel good about what they're doing. In this particular example, we gave everyone an opportunity to participate in a roadside cleanup activity in and around the town where we were working. And a number of folks raised their hand. It was voluntary to go out and participate in this roadside cleanup. And you can see the number of people that raised their hand and spent the better part of a day going around and just doing a roadside spring cleanup project. It's just one example there.
Why don't you flip to the next one? This was just the logistics of the day that we put together for the roadside cleanup. You see the data. You see our site, the upper in quadrant number 1 or area number 1, and 9 and 10 is the city, and it's a good example here. Essentially, at least for the first 3/4 of the project, basically every car, every delivery went through town. And especially if that is the situation in any of your cases, you will want to manage that very well, and maybe reroute traffic around the town. But in any case, it has been an issue at times, and it's just something we need to reinforce on a daily basis. This and all the other aspects of what we're talking about here. Why don't you jump to the next one here?
Yeah, just real quick before we get off this was really well received by the community. Todd, you mentioned social media and the impact that can have. The fact that, working with the community and talking about, hey, a spring cleanup volunteer activity would be, really good. It was. So it was meaningful. Obviously, your ditches and roadways in the spring, most places could use a cleanup anyway. But the traffic that caused on social media in the local, the Facebook group for the town, I read a bunch of that chatter, and it was a real positive thing that the community, saw, and was an impact on everybody there. So
good. This is an important slide. It tends to summarize a lot of kind of what we're talking about. Define and communicate the standards for job site behavior, job site and off-site behavior. And this, to a certain extent, should be done in conjunction with the community leaders in the community. So the awareness is full circle, both on-site and outside of the site. Again, a continuous effort. And this is an effort. This takes a lot of work on fostering good relationships with the neighbors and communities. The economic impact on this small town has been arguably very good. So as we say, the net benefits are very positive. Over the years, we support events. Like I said, they built basically a park system. Upgraded one of the local organizations to facilitate more dinners and meals for the staff. And a big part of this is also just the obvious communication and communicating to the community, if you will, the schedule. what's coming up, what will impact the community, where are the peaks in workforce size, work with the community to understand what's available for housing locally. What do people want there to be available for housing locally? A lot of these tradespeople are travelers, and many of them basically travel with a fifth wheel or some sort of mobile home. So it's not uncommon to have various trailer parks set up, good or bad. And depending on the proximity to other larger towns, if you will, by and large, most people on this site will travel about an hour into a larger town of 30 to 50,000 and find accommodations there. So again, a continuous communication as well as monitoring and enforcing these behaviors from our part.
I think that rolls right into our last point here is on workforce housing. You hear a lot about workforce housing, wanted to address what that is and what that isn't, or what it could be maybe. Again, when we look at a project, many of these are being built in locations that are not close to that town of 30,000 plus that might have sufficient hotel or other housing accommodations for folks. So you look at workforce housing and the workforce housing that is widely available now, becoming more available as the demand continues to grow. These are facilities that provide amenities, food service, what the communities don't want and what we don't want to do is to overrun the capacity of what that community can bear. So, these types of facilities that have the recreation amenities and the food services right on campus are a great option. They're easy to.
Why don't you talk? That's what they're looking at here. You got a mobile housing unit that I think it has got like plus or minus 50 per wing, if you will, and it's got on-site eating and recreation. So this in particular is what you on your site are getting ready to set up.
So when you hear about man camps or whatever type of language get used, I think maybe some stories from whatever are more popular on social media, but really when you look at workforce housing setups, it's organized, like John said, wings of about 50. I think this setup was a 500 bed setup with some nice amenities and a parking area and a nice, clean, organized area for the folks to stay right adjacent to the job site. So again, you talk about minimizing traffic and impact, on the town and just traffic on the roadways. This actually helps quite a bit in the cases where it's required. So I think that's all the prepared content we have. Obviously wanted to drive a conversation around just expectations, things that folks in the community should, expect, conversations that you can have. And certainly if there's other questions specifically around things in Montana, Megan is here with us on the call today, and she is our local contact. We'd be happy to have a longer conversation individually, specifically on something coming up. Even if it has nothing to do with us, we're happy to help and just share experiences and help set expectations. So feel free to reach out to Megan to get in contact with her or either of us.
Great. Well, thanks, John. Thanks, Nate.